Hello, my name is Amanda Thompson, and this past semester I served as an intern for the ARL Technical Library, along with Aryn Dagirmanjian and Elizabeth Rapp. During this semester, the three of us were responsible for identifying scientific research within Japan and Italy. Specifically, we identified what major scientists are research, what agencies are leading the scientific research, and what agencies are funding science research. We also identified the leading scientists within each field. The countries that we researched were of special interest for ARL scientists. To find information about Japan and Italy, we conducted searches through the Web of Science core collection. Through Web of Science, analyses are run to determine funding agencies, research organizations, and leading scientists. We also analyzed information from international reports, such as the Battelle report from R&D magazine, to further analyze each country's priorities and agendas. We aggregated our findings into the ARL Technical Library report and website. On each medium, each country is divided up by scientists, organizations, and funding agencies. The sections on scientists details what agencies they work for, major research interests, websites, and email addresses. The sections on organizations details budgets, where funding comes from, collaborative efforts, and key research areas. The section on funding agencies is similar to the one on organizations and also includes the types of funding offered by the agency. With that, let me hand you off to Aryn, who will discuss our findings on Japan.
Hi, my name is Aryn Dagirmanjian, and I'm going to go ahead and share the website with you. Okay, so this is the main page of our website. As you can see, there's a side scroller over here. You can click on pretty much anything from here, or you can click on the icons down at the bottom. We're going to start with the Japan report, and this is a reflection of the PDF version of our report. Here on the country overview, it's going to give you a general overview of Japanese culture, talking about some of the Chinese influences early on and some of the things that Japan is known for today in science and technology, for example, consumer electronics, robotics, and the automotive industry. Japan is also known as being a very insular country. Despite that, most of their publishings are actually in English. A lot of students are required to pass a test of English for International Communication, or TOEIC, and they need to pass that, or they need to get a certain score in order to qualify for a master's or PhD program. So there is definitely a push for more internationalization in recent years. One of the major pushers for science and technology in Japan is MEXT. It's the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology. It's a government agency, and it's recently put forth a science and technology basic plan. It's a 5-year plan. It proposes to enhancing basic research and human development, and the major ways of doing that are drastic enhancements of basic research based on long-term perspective, development of human resources, such as young researchers leading future in science and technology research, and the formation of an international standard research environment and foundation. And what all of those really mean is that they're really pushing for international partnerships with leading science and technology institutions. They're also seeking to invite overseas talent. Both of these things we'll see a little bit more of later on. If we scroll back up to the top, we can see that each country, both Italy and Japan, are broken down into 3 further parts: funding organizations and scientists, as Amanda mentioned earlier. Let's take a look at Japan's funding. So we get a little bit of overview of what's going on in Japan right now. And one thing that we see is that something that they're really pushing for these days is, again, international collaboration. And one of the ways that you can see that is they're also more open to more funding agencies. If we open up the Google map that's embedded on the site, and you can use this just like any, you can zoom in, zoom out. You can really it's Northern Hemisphere. You get one thing done in Australia. Then the funding's coming mainly from Tokyo, which makes sense. This area of Japan. Of course, most of these most of these organizations and government agencies do have locations elsewhere in Japan, but these are their central locations. So looking back, as you can see, everything's broken down into their individual sciences. If we look at optics, for example, we can see that we have information on different organizations listed underneath. The things we focused on are contact information and news, so URL, and RSS if it's available. Sometimes it's not. Funding information if we can find it, location, budget, international collaborative efforts were a big thing for us, as well as key research areas. As you can see, though, towards the end, optics is the last one on our list. A lot of them started to repeat themselves. So see network science, and it would just redirect you back. So if we take a look at organizations next, so we can see another general overview. This talks a little bit about the things that are going on in Japan right now. Right now there's a real focus on green technology as well as nanotechnology. There's also been a bit of a backlash against nuclear power since the Fukushima Daiichi disaster. And if we scroll down, we get a table of contents. So any of these organizations, if you're interested in a particular one, you can just click and it'll take you right to it. Most of them are going to be government agencies and universities. And again, we have another map. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see that all of the organizations and universities are located on the main island of Honshu. You're not going to get anything on Shikoku or Hokkaido up at the top. Everything's going to be on the main island. If we scroll down a bit, you can see again that we've got the URL, locations, budget, who they're funded by as well, collaborative efforts and key research areas. Something I thought was interesting all the way at the bottom is that we do have the Japan Atomic Energy Agency. Despite the backlash, they are still publishing. Most of their publishings have been focused on safety. And if we go back to the top, we can take a look at scientists. Scientists are again broken down into their individual sciences. Let's take a look at material science. We've listed the top 10 in each category. Something interesting about material science, and again, here we have organizations, website. We also have an email, if they have one, so that any scientist interested can get in contact with them. But something interesting about material science is that there are actually 2 scientists that are not of Japanese descent, which is a big deal for, again, a country that has a very insular reputation, that they are, in fact, reaching out to other scientists to try to bring them in to kind of boost their own research abilities. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Liz, who is going to tell us a little bit about Italy.
Thank you, Aryn. I'm going to share my screen with you, so just give me a minute. I'm going to be taking you through the Italy report, and this corresponds to the PDF portion of our report. First, we have a general overview of the country. This overview mainly focuses on the scientific research and development of Italy. It discusses the many economic issues that the country is currently facing. Over on the sidebar, we can click on funding. This funding aspect has a small introduction, and it discusses how Italy funds its scientific research. We scroll down, we can see another embedded map. This is a Google map that we embedded for the funding organizations, and this is helpful because you can see where the funding organizations are located, as Aryn mentioned earlier. The funding organization section is set up a little bit differently from how Japan's funding organization section was set up. Japan was set up into different areas of science, but for Italy, we simply listed the top 10 funding organizations, as you can see if we scroll up a little bit. The information that's provided is the organization's URL, an RSS feed if it was available, any kind of funding information if we are able to find it, the locations, including headquarters and overseas offices, any kind of budget information, the key research areas, and lastly, the types of funding that are offered. Scroll back up. Next, we're going to go over to organizations. So these are the major organizations, the research organizations in Italy. This section also has a short introduction, and then it's followed by the top 10 organizations. We also put another embedded Google map in here as well. The information that's listed for each organization includes the URL, the locations, the budget information, any kind of funding information, the collaborative efforts, as well as the key research areas. Lastly, we're going to look at the scientists. These are divided into subpages by science, and you can see that we did research 10 areas, which is a little bit larger than we did for Japan. So if we just click on one for an example, I'm going to click on computer science. The information that we have listed for the scientists includes the organizations where they work, URLs if they're available, email addresses, as well as key research areas. Job titles were also included when we were able to find this information. Click on this just for a second. And finally, I would like to mention that we will be presenting this information and project at the ALA 2014 Annual Conference in Las Vegas in the Convention Center and the Placement Center. This will be held on June 29th at 3 p.m. So please contact us with any questions, either with the information that you can find here on the website or through our email addresses, which were listed earlier. Thank you for your time.